Every now and then, something happens in the Meghan Markle storyline that makes even the most experienced royal watchers pause. It's not always about shock. It's the sense that each move appears deliberate and carefully timed, drawing attention in a powerful way. The boldness behind it stands out, and naturally, people begin to talk. Picture the scene. Across the Atlantic, in the quiet Norfolk countryside, the Prince and Princess of Wales release a set of beautiful photographs. A young boy, gap-toothed and giggling, sits perched on a log in a sun-dappled woodland. Prince Louis, now 7 years old, capturing a moment of pure childhood innocence. The world reacts instantly. Comments pour in, with royal fans from London to Los Angeles sharing the images, remarking on how much he has grown, how much he resembles his father, and how joyful his smile appears. By every measure, it was a moment of unfiltered royal happiness, his moment. Then, almost simultaneously, Meghan Markle appeared at an event in New York City, drawing attention in her own direction. What followed sparked strong reactions from royal commentators, insiders, and observers alike. Critics began weighing in, including individuals familiar with her background, such as her half-sister, adding yet another layer to an already highly watched narrative. Samantha Markle, who has followed these patterns for years, claimed that what happened that day was no coincidence. Not even close. According to her, the timing appeared intentional, adding another layer to the ongoing discussion. In this breakdown, the focus turns to what Meghan Markle did, why Samantha Markle believes it was deliberate, and what it might suggest about the carefully managed public image often associated with her. When the details are examined, the timing, the statements, and the perceived contradictions, the narrative becomes more complex and attention-grabbing. To understand why this moment stood out, it's important to look at the significance of Prince Louis's birthday photographs. These images are not just personal family snapshots. They carry meaning for the royal family, the British public, and royal watchers worldwide. Each year, without exception, the Princess of Wales releases a thoughtfully captured photograph of her children on their birthdays. Over time, this has become one of the most cherished traditions of the modern monarchy. Fans eagerly anticipate it, newspapers often feature it prominently, and social media quickly fills with reactions within minutes of its release. These images are not simply charming snapshots. They are often seen as a heartfelt gesture from a mother to a nation that has watched her children grow up. On Prince Louis's 7th birthday, Catherine, Princess of Wales, once again delivered a beautiful set of photographs. Taken in Norfolk, the images showed Prince Louis wearing a blue check shirt, sitting on a log in soft natural light. His wide, gap-toothed smile, missing the front teeth so typical for a child his age, captured a moment of pure, unfiltered childhood joy. It was the kind of image that instantly made people smile. Within an hour, the photos had been shared hundreds of thousands of times. Royal commentators praised them, and social media was filled with admiration. It was clearly Prince Louis's moment, a celebration centered entirely around him. Then came the timing that sparked further discussion. On that very same morning, as the birthday photographs were circulating worldwide, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry arrived in New York City for the Time 100 Summit, a prestigious annual event that brings together influential figures from business, culture, and politics. To be fair, Meghan Markle had been scheduled to speak at the event weeks in advance, and the timing was publicly known. She did not select the date herself, but the overlap in timing quickly became part of the broader conversation. Some argue that the timing had nothing to do with Prince Louis's birthday, but that is exactly what has divided royal commentators. Many find it difficult to believe that someone with Meghan Markle's level of media experience, supported by a full PR team, would overlook such a significant date. The question of whether it was coincidence or careful timing continues to fuel debate. What is clear is that Meghan Markle is highly experienced in navigating the public eye. Having spent years in the spotlight, she understands how crucial timing can be in shaping media attention. When she arrived at the event, she was dressed impeccably in a tan linen suit with a white button-down shirt, presenting the polished and professional image she is known for. Prince Harry accompanied her, as he often does at major appearances, while cameras were already in place, ready to capture the moment. For a brief period that morning, attention was split between two very different narratives unfolding at the same time. For a brief moment, The world was focused on two parallel stories: the sweetness of a young boy's birthday portraits in Norfolk, and the arrival of the Sussexes in Manhattan. Then Meghan Markle stepped onto the stage, and the attention shifted. She was interviewed by the Time magazine CEO, and the conversation unfolded in a familiar style, beginning with a carefully framed personal reflection. Asked to share a confession in the spirit of her podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder, Meghan Markle responded with a bright smile, saying she felt the happiest she had ever been. She expressed that, after everything she had experienced, she never imagined reaching a point where she would feel so fulfilled and grateful. The audience responded warmly, applauding as the moment landed. However, across the Atlantic, royal watchers began analyzing the statement more closely. The idea of describing this as the happiest point in her life sparked discussion, as it invited comparisons to other significant milestones, such as her wedding day or the birth of her children, leading to varied interpretations and reactions. Not long before this moment, Meghan Markle had been sitting down with Oprah Winfrey, sharing a very different perspective on her experiences within the royal family. She spoke about feeling isolated, unsupported, and under immense emotional strain, describing a period that deeply affected her mental health. Because of that, her more recent statement about being the happiest she has ever been did not go unnoticed. It sparked discussion among observers, with many reflecting on the contrast between those two moments. Some questioned what that shift might mean, whether it reflects personal growth, a change in circumstances, or simply moving forward from a difficult chapter. Others interpreted it differently, leading to a wide range of reactions and ongoing debate. During the same on-stage conversation, Meghan Markle also spoke about her son Archie. She mentioned that he was about to lose his first tooth that week and expressed hope that she would return home in time for the moment. Delivered with a warm laugh, the comment painted a picture of everyday motherhood, adding a more personal and relatable touch to the discussion, and the room found it utterly charming. Several outlets immediately picked up the moment, with headlines highlighting Meghan Markle discussing her son Archie's milestone and her desire to be home for it. The tone was warm and maternal, presented as a relatable family moment that many found endearing. But this is where the timing discussion becomes more complex. On the very same morning, the photographs of Prince Louis, with his gap-toothed smile and missing front teeth clearly visible, had already been seen by millions around the world. His birthday images were widely shared and quickly became one of the most talked-about royal moments of the day, with the detail of his teeth even being highlighted in coverage as part of the charm. As a result, the contrast between the two narratives, Meghan Markle's personal family moment in New York and the globally circulating images of Prince Louis in Norfolk, became part of the wider public discussion unfolding online and in media commentary. When Prince Louis's birthday images were going viral, Meghan Markle was on a stage in New York speaking about her own child's tooth milestone. Some people may view that as coincidence, and others argue it may simply be timing, but it has still become a talking point in public discussion. On the same day the world was focused on Prince Louis's missing teeth and his birthday photographs, Meghan Markle brought up a similar personal detail about her own child during a global media appearance. For some observers, the overlap in themes and timing stood out, while others see it as unrelated and naturally coincidental within a busy media schedule. This is where interpretations begin to split. Samantha Markle, in particular, has suggested that such moments are not accidental, arguing that patterns over time deserve closer scrutiny. She has spoken publicly for years about her perspective as Meghan Markle's half-sister, describing her experiences growing up alongside her and later watching her rise through Hollywood and into royal life. According to Samantha Markle, there is a disconnect between the public image of Meghan Markle and the person she believes she knows personally. She has often expressed frustration and disappointment, claiming that the version of events presented publicly does not always match her own recollections or understanding. Over the years, Samantha Markle has been consistently critical of Meghan Markle. While some people dismiss her as a bitter sibling left behind as her half-sister rose to global fame, supporters of Samantha Markle argue that her claims should not be so easily ignored. They point to what they believe are repeated patterns she has highlighted over time, suggesting that her warnings reflect observation rather than simple frustration. When Samantha Markle looked at the events surrounding Prince Louis's birthday, the New York summit, and the on-stage personal remarks made by Meghan Markle, she reportedly said she was not surprised by the overlap in timing and themes. According to her, these moments follow a pattern she believes she has seen before on multiple occasions. In her view, the pattern involves Meghan Markle having a strong instinct for positioning herself within major cultural or media moments, particularly when attention is already focused elsewhere. She suggests that this does not always appear dramatic or obvious, but can instead be subtle, through carefully timed appearances or personal anecdotes that align with broader public conversations and naturally draw attention back toward her. The narration argues that whatever the news cycle was already focused on, Meghan Markle knows how to position herself within it. But on Prince Louis's birthday, Samantha Markle claims the move was anything but subtle. She points to the mention of a child's tooth. On the very same day, the world was already focused on Prince Louis's gap-toothed birthday portrait, as, in her view, a deliberate redirection of attention. According to this perspective, it was a conscious insertion into an existing public moment, one that naturally drew engagement and discussion. Supporters of this interpretation argue that it worked, in the sense that it generated significant attention, though others dispute that framing entirely. To understand why critics take this so seriously, the argument expands to what they describe as a broader pattern. They claim this was not an isolated incident, but part of a repeated tendency to align personal announcements or appearances with major royal or public events. As examples, they often point back to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's announcement to step back from royal duties, which was made without advance coordination with the palace. Critics say the timing created disruption during a sensitive period for the institution. They also reference the Oprah interview involving Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, which aired while Prince Philip was seriously ill, noting that it added further strain during an already emotionally difficult moment for the royal family. The narration references allegations and timing critiques, while noting the wider royal context, including periods of public grief and high-profile institutional moments. It also highlights the release of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's Netflix documentary during the same week that Catherine, Princess of Wales, made a major solo overseas visit to Boston. Catherine's trip received strong and largely positive coverage in the American press, described as a significant success. However, the documentary release from the Sussexes drew substantial global attention at the same time, leading some commentators to argue that the competing media narratives overshadowed her tour. Critics describe these overlaps as more than coincidence, while others firmly disagree with that interpretation. Samantha Markle is presented as viewing the pattern as consistent over time, suggesting it reflects a broader strategy rather than isolated timing decisions. The focus then shifts to Prince Harry, who attended the New York summit alongside Meghan Markle. While present at the event, the narration emphasizes that his role appeared more reserved in comparison, with attention primarily centered on Meghan Markle's onstage appearance and remarks. The narration frames the New York event as Meghan Markle's moment, her speech, her presence, her spotlight. It then contrasts this with Prince Harry, noting how his public role within their joint appearances has evolved over time. According to this commentary, Prince Harry, once one of the most recognizable figures in the royal family and as the son of the monarch, a central royal figure in his own right, is now seen as taking a more background position in public engagements. Observers describe him as speaking less at events, and often appearing in a supporting role alongside Meghan Markle. One commentator quoted in the discussion even suggested that Prince Harry has been made the spare all over again, though this reflects a subjective opinion rather than an established fact. The framing is presented as part of a broader media narrative about their public dynamic. The segment then references Prince Harry's earlier decision to step back from royal duties, highlighting that he left behind royal life, military associations, and established roles within the institution, largely citing his desire for a different kind of life and greater independence. Prince Harry has previously spoken about feeling reduced to a supporting role, saying he felt invisible, overlooked, and sidelined compared to his brother. Yet at the New York event, he appeared alongside Meghan Markle, dressed in Ralph Lauren, quietly observing as she took center stage. He was seen smiling at appropriate moments and applauding during her appearance, presenting a composed public image that some commentators have interpreted in different ways. Stepping back, critics argue that Meghan Markle's appearance at the summit was not just an interview, but a carefully structured media moment. In their view, it functioned as a strategic PR opportunity rather than a spontaneous appearance. From this perspective, the event was significant for her public positioning. At that point, Meghan Markle was managing multiple professional projects. Her Netflix series had already received mixed reactions, praised in some circles and heavily criticized in others. Her lifestyle brand had recently launched, attracting both interest and scrutiny. Her podcast was still in its early stages. Overall, she was in a period of rebuilding her public image and expanding her media presence. The Time 100 Summit, in this framing, provided a high-profile global platform with extensive media coverage and influential attendees, making it a major moment in her ongoing public narrative. The narration describes the environment of the Time 100 Summit, noting the presence of major entertainment executives, Hollywood figures, and philanthropists. Within this setting, Meghan Markle is portrayed as positioning herself as a peer among influential global personalities, presenting herself as a serious public figure on an international stage. The speech she delivered is framed by commentators as carefully structured to address common public narratives about her. In this interpretation, her remarks about happiness are seen as countering stories about instability, her comments on motherhood as addressing criticism about parenting, and her expressions of gratitude as responding to perceptions of entitlement. The idea presented is that each element of her message aligns with ongoing public discussions surrounding her image. The Archie tooth reference is also highlighted in this commentary, with royal analysts suggesting it became a widely discussed moment because it coincided with broader online conversations about royal family imagery and children's milestones. Critics argue that it unintentionally placed Meghan Markle into an already trending topic, while others view it as a natural and unrelated personal comment within a public appearance. Overall, the segment presents differing interpretations of how media narratives form around high-profile figures like Meghan Markle, particularly when multiple public events overlap in timing and theme. Now let us address what critics have specifically labeled as lies. A very strong word that requires careful and balanced consideration. The central concern raised by some royal commentators, including Samantha Markle, is that Meghan Markle's public statements about her children do not always align with perceptions of her day-to-day schedule and professional commitments. They argue that the image of a consistently present, hands-on mother does not fully match a lifestyle described as highly demanding and fast-paced, involving frequent travel, media projects, brand launches, and public appearances over the past 2 years. On stage, Meghan Markle spoke emotionally about not wanting to miss her son Archie's milestones, including the well-known tooth moment. The delivery was warm and appeared heartfelt, and for many in the audience, it reinforced an image of a devoted mother balancing family and public life. However, critics contrast this with her public schedule, podcast work, Netflix-related projects, brand development, international summits, and multiple high-profile appearances within short time spans. They argue this creates tension between public messaging and practical reality. At the same time, they also note that Archie and Lilibet are rarely seen in public, appearing only in controlled or carefully selected moments, such as photographs or brief mentions. Supporters interpret this as an effort to protect privacy, while critics view it as part of a broader, carefully managed public narrative around Meghan Markle and her family life. Samantha Markle has consistently claimed that Meghan Markle is highly skilled at presenting warmth and maternal devotion in public, suggesting that the image of closeness and emotional presence may not always reflect the full reality. According to this perspective, when Meghan Markle speaks about her children in public, critics argue there is often a degree of calculation behind the messaging. These are serious allegations, and while some observers find them compelling, others strongly reject them as subjective interpretation rather than fact. At the same time, a broader and more sensitive dimension is often raised in these discussions: the children themselves. Archie is 6 years old and Lilibet is 3. They did not choose the circumstances into which they were born, nor the public attention that surrounds their family. It notes that Archie, now 6 years old, has already been mentioned in connection with various public debates involving the royal family and Meghan Markle, including discussions around titles, public perception, and earlier statements made during high-profile interviews. Critics argue that this level of attention places a child within narratives shaped by adults and media commentary. The segment then focuses on the recent reference to his first missing tooth, as part of a public conversation, describing it as a normal childhood milestone that became part of a wider media moment connected to a high-profile appearance involving Meghan Markle. Supporters would describe such mentions as natural and family-oriented, while critics interpret them differently, viewing them through the lens of media timing and public visibility. The narration concludes with a broader reflection on the long-term impact of public narratives involving children like Archie, suggesting that one day he may encounter how his early life was discussed in the public sphere, and how those interpretations were shaped over time. The narration shifts to a broader institutional perspective, suggesting that one of the most significant aspects of situations like this is what the palace chooses not to say. It notes that both Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace typically avoid direct responses to actions or statements involving Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. The reasoning given is that responding publicly could elevate the situation, turning it into a larger issue than necessary. In this interpretation, silence is presented as a deliberate communication strategy, avoiding engagement in order to avoid amplification. The segment contrasts this approach with public moments such as the release of birthday photographs by Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, highlighting how those events proceeded without public comment on unrelated controversies. This is framed as part of a broader culture of restraint and institutional discipline. It further suggests that internal communications teams within the royal institutions observe such external developments closely, while maintaining a public stance of neutrality. The narration concludes by reinforcing the idea that the monarchy is viewed as a long-standing institution that has weathered many challenges over time, and that internal continuity remains a guiding principle regardless of external narratives involving Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. The wounds aren't real. And it doesn't mean the timing of a certain New York appearance on a certain day went unnoticed by the people who notice everything. Samantha Markle's observations about what happened on Prince Louis's birthday exist within a much larger framework. She has not simply been commenting on individual events as they arise. She has, for years, been presenting what she describes as a fundamental truth about her half-sister's character, one that she believes the world is only slowly beginning to recognize. The argument Samantha Markle makes in interviews, in her book, and in public statements is that Meghan Markle has always been someone for whom being the center of the story is not occasional or situational, but constant. In her view, it is not just a preference but a defining trait. She describes it as something deeply rooted in identity rather than circumstance. She further claims that Meghan Markle grew up in an environment where attention functioned as a form of validation, shaping how she relates to visibility and public perception. And those early patterns, Samantha Markle argues, do not simply disappear when the audience expands from a family setting to a global one watched by millions around the world. She suggests that what once operated in private environments continues to shape behavior in public life, just on a far larger stage. One of the more sensitive aspects of Samantha Markle's argument is her claim that Meghan Markle may not always experience these actions as deliberate strategy, but rather as something instinctive and deeply embedded. In this view, the tendency to draw attention or redirect focus is not necessarily conscious planning, but an automatic way of engaging with the world. She describes it as something natural rather than calculated. Whether someone interprets that explanation as more troubling or less troubling than intentional scheming is ultimately subjective. However, it is important to be cautious about assigning internal motives or emotions to individuals who have not directly confirmed them. Similarly, it is not possible to know with certainty how figures such as King Charles III may personally feel when observing these developments. The narration reflects on the inability to know the private thoughts or emotions of senior royal figures such as Prince William or King Charles III, particularly in relation to public appearances and ongoing media cycles involving Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. It suggests that public observers cannot definitively know how Prince William interprets repeated news developments involving the Sussexes, or how the king feels when viewing family dynamics unfold in the public eye. What is stated with more confidence is that the relationship between Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and the rest of the royal family remains deeply strained. The anticipated reconciliation that many had hoped for has not materialized, and the passage of time is portrayed as making it increasingly unlikely. The narration also notes that, according to sources, King Charles III has not fully closed the door on reconciliation with his son. It is suggested that a sense of paternal care and emotional attachment still exists despite ongoing tensions. However, it is emphasized that any potential path toward reconciliation would likely require Prince Harry to return to the UK in some capacity and re-engage with royal responsibilities under clearly defined expectations set by the institution. It concludes that bringing the situation to an end would require the cessation of ongoing public criticism that has surrounded the Sussexes since their departure from royal duties. However, it suggests that such a resolution does not appear imminent. Prince Harry is described as having established a life in California, with his children settled there and his family and professional commitments rooted in the United States. Meghan Markle's media and commercial ventures are portrayed as being closely tied to a narrative centered on independence from the royal family and the institution itself. The narration argues that returning to royal life would, in this framing, conflict with the public narrative they have built since stepping back, making reconciliation complex and unlikely under current circumstances. It then broadens the perspective, presenting the events surrounding Prince Louis's birthday as symbolic of a wider contrast between two approaches. The royal family, depicted as traditional and restrained, focusing on formal duties and public service, and Meghan Markle, portrayed as media-focused and strategically engaged with global platforms. The segment ultimately frames this as part of a long-running narrative that has unfolded since Meghan Markle first entered royal life through her relationship with Prince Harry, with each side representing very different public identities and communication styles. She delivers a perfectly calibrated message of happiness and maternal devotion, ensuring that her name lands in the same news cycle as her nephew's birthday, whether by design or by the deeply ingrained instinct that Samantha describes. The irony, as Samantha has noted with a particular kind of weariness, is that Meghan would almost certainly dispute every single word of this characterization. She would say she is simply living her life, making the appearances she was invited to make, talking honestly about her family, and being a mother in public in the same way any public figure does. And perhaps, in the version of events that exists in Meghan's mind, there is no strategy at all, no calculation, no pattern. Perhaps the timing, the summit, and Prince Louis's birthday were all nothing more than coincidence. But if you have been following this story for any length of time, as many of us have, if you have seen the same patterns repeat, the same timing recur, the same mechanisms activate whenever the spotlight threatens to move away from Meghan and towards someone else, it becomes increasingly difficult to believe that. And Samantha Markle has never believed it. Not for a single day. Prince Louis turned 7. He had a birthday, presumably with cake and chaos, and all the wonderful noise of a little boy celebrating with the people who love him most. He smiled that gap-toothed smile for photographs that his parents will treasure for the rest of their lives. Archie Harrison, somewhere in Montecito, was at some point around that same week, visited by the Tooth Fairy for the very first time. A small, sweet, entirely private childhood moment. Whether his mother made it home in time, what we know is that millions of people around the world heard about it, because Meghan made sure of that. 2 little boys, 2 missing teeth, 2 very different childhoods unfolding in the long shadow of an institution that will outlast all of us. The question of what Meghan intended will likely never be definitively answered. She is not in the habit of confirming the strategies her critics attribute to her. But Samantha Markle is in the habit of telling us what she sees. And what she sees, she says, is a woman who has spent her entire adult life ensuring the world looks at her. Even perhaps especially, when the world was already looking at someone else. Whether that makes Meghan a calculating media operator, a product of a difficult upbringing, or simply a woman doing what comes naturally in a world that rewards exactly this kind of behavior. That, as always, is entirely for you to decide. If this video resonated with you, please give it a like. It truly makes an enormous difference to this channel. And subscribe if you haven't already so you never miss a